So today with Cook at Home with Chef Cook, we're going to make chicken Francese. Chicken Francese is an Italian-American dish. I'm going to put a little spin on it and make the French derivative version of that same dish. It has a little bit of a different spelling, but very similar as far as the dishes are concerned. So again, this is chicken Francese, and it has Lyonnaise potatoes. So Lyonnaise potatoes came from the province of Lyon in France again. Basically has caramelized onions, sliced potatoes, and in this particular one, we're gonna put a little bit of fresh thyme. So here we go. So in the kit, you'll have the directions on paper as well as the QR code that will take you straight to this video. In the kit's gonna be some unsalted butter that's cubed up. We're gonna have a couple different applications to this, and I put some extra in there just in case. We also have some all-purpose flour. We have a piece of a lemon that has no seeds in it, as well as a whole egg. We have some shaved Romano cheese. We have a whole chicken breast. We have kosher salt, black pepper, some broccolini spears, some fresh thyme, shallot, and these are marble potatoes. So we have baby Yukon Gold potatoes, red bliss potatoes, and these are what's called purple Peruvian potatoes. And then the final thing is some heavy cream. So the first thing we're going to do is prepare the potatoes, because this board later on is going to be used for the chicken. So we're going to get some of this prep out of the way first. So the first thing you want to do is take your shallot, cut it down the middle, and then put them side by side. And then as thin as you possibly can, get slices out of it. The next thing is going to be the thyme. So with thyme, what you want to do is you want to get all these little leaves, but you don't want any stem in there. So what we're going to do is kind of hold it at the top and then pull all the way down, and then all the leaves come off the stem with the exception of the top part. And we're just going to get those off there as well. And now in here, if you have some stems, you want to get rid of those as well, as much as you possibly can. And then these leaves, you want to mince them as finely as you can. And basically put it back into a pile and just keep slicing. You can go different ways if you want to. Always keep your hand away from the sharp end of the blade when you're chopping herbs, so you can put it on top if you'd like this. And just mince it until it's nice and fine. So now with these potatoes, this one specifically, this is a purple Peruvian potato. So when you slice it, it actually has purple on the interior. You can slice it with your knife if you're comfortable doing that. Again, get them nice and thin. If you'd prefer not to, and use something like a mandolin, so these you can get online. There's smaller versions for about 18 bucks, 18, 20 bucks. This one is about $24 to $30 because it's a little wider. You can run them on the mandolin. Just make sure as you get down to the end that you're careful that it doesn't cut you. There you are. You have your Yukon Gold potatoes, you have your red bliss potatoes, and then you have your purple Peruvian potatoes. Now we're going to use this board for the chicken breast. We'll take it out of the container. If you see any of this exterior fat or cartilage or anything, what you want to do is just trim it up without wasting any of the breast meat. So at this point, you could put saran wrap over it, and then you could pound it with a mallet. What you're trying to accomplish is to get the chicken breast even across as far as thickness, because you can see on this end it's thin, and then on this end it's thick. I don't prefer to do it that way. I actually prefer to make cutlets out of it. And I put it on the edge of the cutting board, so that way it makes it a little bit easier. And basically I'm just taking the knife and slicing it straight in half. Making sure that you're not angling your knife, just keep it nice and straight so you're not cutting yourself. And at this point, this would be called butterflying the chicken if I left it intact, but I'm not gonna leave it intact for this dish. I'm gonna cut it straight across. So now we have even thickness throughout. So now what we're going to do is season up the flour. So a little bit of kosher salt, a little bit of pure ground black pepper. Mix that up a little bit. At this point, we're gonna make the egg wash. So we're gonna crack the whole egg in there. You'll notice I cracked it on the board instead of on the edge of the bowl. If you crack it on the edge of things that you're making, a lot of times you'll get eggshell fragments in what you're making. So this way, cracking it on the board avoids that. And then we're gonna whisk it up until it's all incorporated. And we're gonna season that with a little salt and a little black pepper and give it another mix. So at this point, we're gonna take the chicken, put it into our seasoned flour, and dredging both sides. The act of dredging something means to dip it into a dry ingredient, something like this. As far as flour, it could be rice flour, it could be many things, but dredging is exactly that, encasing the outside with the dry product. After we dredge it like that, we're going to put it into our egg mixture. Shake off the excess. And then you're gonna get the egg on both sides of the chicken. So with the chicken, we're gonna put some butter in there, and the chicken's gonna go in immediately when that butter goes down. And again, you're putting the presentation side of the chicken down first. And we're gonna let that cook until it's nice and golden. I've changed my gloves and we're gonna start the potatoes. So we have our marble potatoes, our shallots. So we're gonna put the potatoes in first, as well as our shallots, and we're gonna save the time for the end. So now the chicken is nice and golden brown. And we're gonna let it cook on that side until it's golden brown on the bottom as well. We're gonna get our cream cooking. And then this water is for the broccolini, so we're gonna salt the water so that it tastes like the ocean, nice and salty. When you salt the water for green vegetables, and you put the green vegetables in that boiling salted water, that salt actually brings out the green chlorophyll, the color of the vegetable. So the chicken's almost done. It's almost brown enough on the underside. And it should take 2 to 2.5 minutes on each side. Just make sure if you stick it with a thermometer that it reads 165 degrees. So again, use a digital thermometer. The probe has to go into the center, so I would try to get one of the thicker ends, or one of these ends here. Put the probe in there, and then make sure that it's reading 165. So right there, we're at 166. So we're gonna remove that from the heat and reserve that. So our water is at a boil. We're going to put the broccolini spears in there. And we're gonna cook them until they're tender. Our potatoes are nice and tender, so we're gonna add the fresh thyme to it, as well as some kosher salt and pure ground black pepper. So the broccolini spears are nice and tender. It took about 6 minutes, and then I poured off the salted boiling water. And then we're gonna add a little bit of butter, some kosher salt, and some more pepper. And we're gonna reserve that for the plate up. You can see our cream's reducing nicely. It's getting nice and thick. Really what you're looking for is for that to be the base when you add your butter to it to create a semi-stable emulsion. So that's what we're looking for right there, is when you put a spoon into it. That's what's called nappe, where it coats the back of a spoon. So the cream's nice and thick. We're gonna add some butter to it and just keep swirling it around. So we added more butter and just continue to swirl it. And now we're ready for the plate up. Before we do that though, that butter sauce that we made, we wanna make sure it has a lot of seasoning. So a little kosher salt, some pepper, and then that lemon, just a little squeeze of lemon in there, and give it a good mix. And now let's finish plating up. We have our Lyonnaise potatoes. We have our broccolini spears. And we're gonna finish that with a little shaved Romano cheese. Then we have our chicken cutlets. And then finally, our butter sauce. There you are.